Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me for another Batman review. Today it is Season 1, Episode 32, The Riddler's False Notion, which is Part 2 of Death in Slow Motion. And what's notable about this episode is that it is Frank Gorshin's last appearance as the Riddler on the show. The Riddler would be back at a later date, but with a different actor playing the role. Also, Sherry Jackson returns as Pauline, and she is one of the best parts of this episode, in my opinion. Although I have to say, while this episode is still solid and entertaining, I don't think it's quite as strong as Part 1. So we start, as we always do, with the cliffhanger, where Robin is still apparently tied up, more on that in a minute, at the sawmill, and Batman figures out where he is. So he goes there to save him. Now, meanwhile, the Riddler is filming all this. Kind of a morbid thing to film, I have to say, but it kind of fits the Riddler's character. And when Batman goes to save Robin, he learns that this is only a mannequin of Robin, not the real Robin. In the meantime, the Joker and his henchmen get away, but they leave Pauline behind. Not a very nice thing to do, so Batman captures Pauline. And this is where the episode gets a little bit strange. He takes her back to the commissioner's office, where he and the commissioner are interrogating her, but she won't give up any information. So Batman gets the idea that he's going to take her back to the Batcave and interrogate her, but he wants the commissioner to go with him to make sure nothing unlawful is done or no harmful procedures. And I have to say, this is a bit questionable, in my opinion. You're knocking this girl out with gas against her will and taking her back to the Batcave. Seems like a strange thing for Batman to do, but others might find it to be acceptable. I just thought it was kind of weird. So anyway, they get Pauline and the Commissioner back to the Batcave, and eventually she gives the information they need to help. And I have to say, Sherry Jackson is really amusing in all these scenes, although the scenes do take up quite a bit of the episode. There's definitely not as much to this episode as there was in Part 1. So ultimately, the Riddler has Robin on the top of a building, the roof of a building, and he says he's going to push him off. This is the real Robin now. Of course, Robin's not happy about it. But of course, Batman comes and saves him rather easily and without much drama, I must say. For something that was maybe going to be the climax of the episode, this didn't really work all that great, but it turns out it's not the climax of the episode, as the Riddler gets away in a helicopter, I believe it is, and there's another riddle in the sky. I did like the riddle in the sky. That was a nice touch. So the Riddler's ultimate plan, which we finally get to at this point, he goes to a man's house that owns all these old silent film reels, and he decides he's going to steal them because I guess they're worth a lot of money. Who knew that film reels could be worth so much money? But of course, Batman and Robin show up, and it was kind of amusing. There was a big bat symbol on the film projector screen. I thought that was funny, which leads to a fight, which is really typical for a Batman fight. It's decent enough. And of course, Batman and Robin win, and they capture the Riddler and his henchmen. And Aunt Harriet gets a visit from Batman and Robin at the end of this episode as well, which I thought was amusing. So overall, this is a solid episode, and interesting to see some of the techniques that Batman uses in this episode. But ultimately, it did feel like the episode was just slightly padded in a few spots. But it's entertaining, and it's Frank Gorshin's last performance as the Riddler. So I do recommend The Riddler's False Notion and give it a 3 out of 5. Probably one of the weaker Riddler episodes, but all the Riddler episodes are still very entertaining. So I do recommend this episode for fans of the show. So a 3 out of 5 for The Riddler's False Notion. And as always, thank you very much for watching.